Hey guys, I am here. I was watching shorts on YouTube and I found dancing twins and they were really cute and I got lost. I'm sorry. And then I looked at the time and it was 1:51 and I was like, "Oh crap." So, I'm here. um Let me find the courtroom again. Um, my internet went out again. I did not think that I was going to get to stream closing arguments. I was so mad. I was fixing to jump on my phone and get on the community page and tell you guys we were going to have to do this. Everybody was going to have to be replay crew, even me. I was about to get hot. I was like, if I'm going to have to call them again, I'm going to just straight up tell them, you know what? February 6th. Wait a minute. Come on. There we go. Okay, they're not back yet. We have not missed anything. Still on the seal. No noise. No sound. No noise. No sound. Can I make my picture bigger? No. Okay. I've been dreading telling them that I'm going to switch internet, but I was like, if my internet is off today and I cannot do closing arguments, I was like, I don't care. I'm going to call them and tell them. So I didn't watch the whole inauguration because there wasn't enough time. Of course, I could have because, it had already started. It's all over now. I could have watched it on 2 times speed, but I hate doing that. And I watched everything. I could have just jumped right to the swearing in and the speech and all that stuff, but I like the pomp and circumstance. I think that's cool. I like formal ceremonial type stuff. And I can't figure out, I'm not like a political person at all. So I'm having a little trouble figuring this out. He's the 47th president. He's been president twice. Grover Cleveland, was that his name? He was president twice, broken up, just like Trump. And then we've had other presidents that have served 2 terms. They don't have to get sworn in again, right? Because they're still in office. So why have we had 60 inaugurations? They said this was the 60th inaugurations. Why do we have more, not less? Shouldn't we have less than the amount of presidents we've had? Are they including vice presidents in that? And in that case, shouldn't it be more than 60? I'm so confused. I don't know how these things work because I don't know politics. Oh well. I guess it doesn't matter. Oh, they do have to swear in on the second term. Okay. I didn't think they did. I thought because they were still in office that they didn't have to swear in again. Okay. But like, so if Biden had, well, he didn't even run again. Okay. So Biden was the 46th president of the United States, right? So if he had served 2 terms, he would have still been the 46th president, right? And then whoever went after him would have been the 47th. They don't count it as like he's the 46th and the 47th. But because Trump's was broken in two, he's the 45th and the 47th. Right? Did that make sense? Okay. I don't know how these things work. I have no idea. The first inauguration that I ever watched was Biden's. And I only watched that because I thought something strange and unusual may happen. I wanted to watch history in the making just in case. And I wanted to watch this one basically for the same reason. But I guess nothing went wrong. And they did it inside because of the cold. They say because of the cold, but probably also for safety reasons. But I was outside in the cold yesterday for a long while. And it was not pleasant. And it was only in the 50s. I don't know how cold it is in Washington right now. And I brought, because I had a short sleeve dress, it wasn't, I don't even know what material that was. It wasn't a heavy material, but it wasn't a thin material either. I mean, it was kind of like, I guess, a spring dress. And I did wear a coat, but I left it in the car because I didn't know if I would have a place to put it because I didn't know where exactly we were taking pictures. It was outside. It had been raining all day. I didn't know if I was going to have a safe place to put my coat where it wouldn't, I didn't know if there was going to be puddles and stuff on the ground. I didn't want to lay my coat down on the ground. So I left it in the car. And I froze my butt off. And I could have brought it with me because there was plenty of places to put it, but I didn't know that. And I wished I had taken it. So then I could have put it on in between pictures. Because I froze my butt off. But I changed my picture. That's the way I looked yesterday when I had pictures taken. That's what I look like all cleaned up. When I decide I want to do the makeup thing. Which is not often. And Travis told me I look gorgeous, which he doesn't do very often. And I also thought that when we have public events like that they don't let the vice president and the president be in the same room together. Well, I should have known that wasn't right because Kamala and Biden, they were together a lot. I don't know where I got that idea. So, do they swear? I don't remember when I watched Biden's. Do they swear in the president and the vice president at the same time? I mean, one right after the other? I don't remember. I only got as far as the prayer. I think Franklin Graham was finishing up his prayer when my internet went out. And so the rest of the time I was getting my internet, I reset the router twice. I'm trying to get the internet to work again. And I was just fixing to call again when it started working again. If I have to tell them, I don't want them to lose their business though. It has had my business for years and years and years. Oh, vice president is first. I don't remember that. I mean, it was 4 years ago, but I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's probably a good thing I'm not a nurse anymore because I don't remember a lot of stuff. I mean, like details, like short. I think my short memory. I mean, 4 years doesn't fall under short memory, but still, I'm getting, and I'm only 56, but I'm getting to the point that I can remember stuff like old stuff and the newer stuff. Like Travis got a brand new pair of sweatpants the other day, and I got him new car seats for Christmas. And the other day, he was in the kitchen in his brand new sweatpants, and I noticed he had a hole in the butt. And I said, Travis, is that a hole in the butt of your brand new pants? And he's like, yeah, I already told you. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, the car seats that you got me, they act like brakes when I go to get out of the car. And I was like, what? Because, yeah, they grab onto my pants. And when I got out of the car, it felt like something ripped because it grabbed onto my pants. And it ripped the butt of my new sweatpants. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. He goes, I already told you that. And I said, well, I forgot. I mean, not that it was something important, but if I'm a nurse taking care of patients and I forget something, that's not good. But it's little stuff like that, and it aggravates me because I can't remember. And then, like yesterday, I was telling the girls something that I had already told them at Christmas, and they were like, "Yeah, we know you told us." And I hate that; it drives me crazy. That's not good in a nurse to forget something like that. That close in time. It drives me crazy. It's probably my medicine too, on top of the fibromyalgia, all the medicine and stuff I take for it. I was telling the girls because Casey was going to be a nurse. She's been a CNA, so she knows a little medical stuff. So I was telling her, well, and Kristen, both of the girls, about the what was her name? I forgot her name. The lady that the hot car baby trial. I was telling them about that, and I told them about the medicine she was on, and Casey was like, "Just one of those alone would knock me out." I was like, "Yeah, I know, me too." She was on um a sedative, a muscle relaxer, and a sleeping pill. And she was like, "Yeah, just one of those would knock me out." I was like, "Yeah." They took me off Flexeril because I couldn't function on it. It just knocked me out. But I said, "Yeah, she has fibromyalgia like me, CPAP like me. You're not supposed to put anybody on a sleeping pill that's on CPAP because you quit breathing. So you don't want them to sleep too heavily. So you don't want to put them on sleeping pills. Um, Sleep aids for people with sleep apnea is antihistamine because it has the side effect of putting you to sleep. It doesn't work on like your brain to make you fall asleep. It just has the side effect of making you sleepy. So they gave me a prescription antihistamine one time that's stronger than Benadryl, but it still works the same way. It's just stronger. But she was like, she doesn't need prison time. She doesn't need to go to prison. She's sick. She needs to be like hospitalized and treated. And I said, yeah, I don't know. She hasn't been sentenced yet. So I don't know what they're going to do. But she's already had one grandson that died under her care. And then she's like, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to go back and look at that? And I said, yeah, I think they're going to go back and look at that. But she had doctors and stuff that testified. So for the appeal, saying that she was over medicated, and I agree with her. Like, if she's sick, if she's got dementia, but if that was my kid and she'd already neglected one of my children to the point of death, she wouldn't have been watching a second one. I feel bad for everybody involved. I feel bad for the kids. I feel bad for grandma. I feel bad for the parents. It's a no-win situation. But why did they let her watch the second kid is what I want to know. Were they trying to just save some money by not hiring a babysitter or taking the baby to a daycare or what? Okay, you are now 20 minutes late and I am just rambling. Can we get with it before my internet crashes again? Please. Come on, Judge. I'm trying to remember what the last video I was watching on my phone was. Because it said this video has been removed by the uploader, and I don't remember what video I was watching. Thought it was mine. I didn't remove any of my videos. a whopping 8 degrees.
Yes, sir.
It's 46 degrees here.
Per our discussion in chambers, I will reread the use of courts where it's just one theory. Some tweaks to that. So, well, I can say in chambers we discussed how to proceed. And I'll say, I'll just go through it, I'll say, is this correct?
Will you verify that all parties agree
Yes.
to that solution?
I found a video with some person pretending to have Tourette's making cookies. People, jeez, get a life.
All right, please be seated. Sure, that I'm sure you gathered that the jury instructions we worked on were a fluid project, kind of tweaked it all the way up, including when I was reading it to you, so I had to change one of those sections. Since, I should say, over the break, we talked with parties, and there's going to be a modification to the abuse of corpse jury instruction. The littering aspect will not be part of it. It's just one theory that the state is alleging happened. So I'm going to reread that to you just so there's no confusion. Any person who commits the offense of abuse of a corpse is guilty of a crime. For you to find the defendant guilty of this offense, the state must have proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following essential elements. One, that the defendant physically mistreated the corpse in a manner offensive to the sensibilities of an ordinary person. And two, that the defendant acted without legal privilege. And three, that the defendant acted knowingly. And the deciding whether the act was offensive to the sensibilities of an ordinary person, the jury must avoid subjective, personal, and private views and evaluate the sensibilities of a hypothetical average adult person, applying the collective view of the adult community as a whole. Ordinary person means a person of ordinary care and diligence in relation to a particular thing. Legal privilege means a particular or peculiar benefit or advantage created by law. A person acts knowingly with respect to the nature of circumstances surrounding the result of his or her conduct, when the person is aware the nature of the conduct, that the circumstances exist, or that the conduct is reasonably certain to cause the result. The requirement of knowledge is also established if it is shown that the defendant acted intentionally. A person acts intentionally with respect to the nature or result of his or her conduct when it is the person's conscious objective or desire to engage in the conduct or cause of the result. Again, for the record, this is something that the state has agreed to. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Something that the defense agreed to. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Remember, what is said in closing arguments is not evidence. You have already heard and seen all the evidence in this case that you may properly consider. During the closing arguments, the parties may mention points of law or refer to these instructions that the court has given. However, the law that you must follow in reaching your verdict is the law that the court has given you in these final instructions. If there is any difference between what the parties say about the law and what the court has said in these final instructions, you must follow the court's instructions. With that, since you've already heard all the evidence in the case and your notes are to help you in understanding the evidence, at this point, you must all put your notepads under your chair. You're not allowed to take notes during closing argument because it's not evidence. But you may refer to your notes in your stay ready to close.
Yes, Your Honor.
DVD, prosecution,
Prosecution. What's in the bags? It's a matter of perspective. For one person in the courtroom, was contained in Exhibit 138-6, found on the banks of the Tennessee River in Hamilton County, was an inconvenience. Something that needed to be gotten rid of, discarded like a piece of trash. Something that you don't care about. But to other people in the courtroom whom you've heard from today, it's something, not today, but over the course of this week, something to be cherished, something precious, something that you'd be willing to go to the ends of the earth to find and bring home safe. What's in the bag? Jasmine Pace. The court has instructed you on the law. And this case really boils down to premeditation. What is premeditation? Well, it's a conscious decision, a choice to engage in murder. The court told you already that it need not exist for any definite period of time, not an hour, not a day, not a minute. And as we talk about premeditation, I'm showing you what's already been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 129. It's a video, you've seen it, and I think it bears seeing again, but not for the reason that you're thinking. It's 5:59 p.m. on the 23rd of November, 2023. You can see on the screen Mr. Jason Chen wheeling this suitcase towards his Toyota Camry in preparation for driving to Suck Creek Road and dumping Jasmine Pace to sit until found by law enforcement on December the 1st. The video stops here. We've all approached a traffic light. The light was turned yellow. You can see it here. As someone approaches this traffic light, they have a choice. You step on the gas, or you step on the brakes. You consider, what time of day is it? Are there pedestrians? What's the traffic look like? Are you running late? Is there a need to get where you're going quickly? All things that your mind processes in an instant. You make the conscious choice to either hit the brake pedal or to go hammer down. And as we'll see, silver car, when faced with that decision, just like Mr. Chen, accelerated, kept going, didn't stop. I want you to keep that in mind as we start going through the proof. What opportunities did Mr. Chen have during this to take the off-ramp away from violence, away from murder, away from 60 stab wounds? It's important to know the timeline. How long does it take to choose to kill Miss Jasmine Pace? Mere seconds. Our story starts at 11:27 p.m. when Miss Jasmine Pace leaves her parents' house. You've seen the pictures of it. She drives from her residence to Jason Chen's apartment at 110 Tremont Street. We can see her arriving at 11:42. A minute before, her My Chevy app shows that her ignition turns off in her car. And people asked in the case in chief, who is the person walking towards the door of the apartment? State's position is that that's Miss Jasmine Pace. The last time she'd ever be seen alive. Then at 2:11 a.m., the defense called a witness whose name is Courtney Paglino Brewer. She was awoken by a scream. Lasted several seconds, she described. She heard footsteps chasing away from the bedroom towards the front door. She heard a female voice that she described as sad but assertive. At the tail end of an argument is what was said. And then she hears the front door slam to Mr. Chen's apartment, not the interior door. She told you she knows what the interior door sounds like. She knows what the front doors to the apartment sound like when they slam shut. And it was the front door to the apartment. She hears sounds of walking, but what's very important is she doesn't hear glass breaking. Bottles hitting the floor. Nothing. 2:15 a.m. Miss Katrina Pace sends a pin of her last location to her mother. Jasmine Pace sends it to Katrina. Now there's two options, sure. But circumstantially, we know that it's Jasmine that sent that message. Because there's only two options. It's either Miss Jasmine Pace in a cry for help, letting her family know where she is, or it's Mr. Jason Chen using the phone, sending a message to Katrina Pace, Jasmine's mom. For what purpose? To get caught? We know he doesn't want that to happen, based on everything else that we see after. So by process of elimination, it's Jasmine Pace. At 2:31 a.m., Mr. Chen's downstairs neighbor, Courtney Paglino Brewer, hears a television turn on in Mr. Chen's bedroom. At no point does she describe sounds of toilets flushing, person retching on the floor. No, she hears what? garbage disposal, washing machine. That's at 3 a.m., about 1 hour after the murder. We next move forward to 4:04 a.m., about 1 3/4 hours or 1 hour and 45 minutes after the murder. And what starts happening? Jasmine Pace is dead, but her phone starts springing to life. Exhibit 126 shows at 4:04 through 4:28 a series of messages. I ask for you to compare Exhibit 126 to 139. So what? We scroll over. Mr. Chen has now attempted to access Jasmine Pace's bank accounts. How does he know that? Because he's got her bank card right there. He has unfettered access to her property that she brought with her. Phones, driver's licenses, credit cards. Moving forward to 9:52 a.m., now 7 3/4 hours or 7 hours and 45 minutes after Miss Jasmine Pace was murdered, we get to the Tinder. We get to the Tinder data on Mr. Chen's cell phone. And what does it show? Oops. What's it show? I guess we're dating now. Ask yourselves, is that the mindset of a person who's stricken with grief? Or is it the mindset of somebody who has zero remorse, who does not care, that would take a body, put it in garbage bags, load it into the suitcase, load it into their car, drive it out to the wilderness, and dump it on the side of the road? Which is consistent? Your common sense tells you that it's the latter. Shortly after, at 10:29, we see Mr. Chen emerge from his apartment for the first time on the 23rd. He's wearing a very distinctive hat. Anything goes. This hat's important. Probably wondering, why would we introduce a hat into evidence? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the one article of clothing that through it all never leaves Mr. Chen's person. We can see here on the Arctic video starting at 10:29, Mr. Chen come out of his apartment wearing all black. When he steps into the sunlight, you see the red and white of the Anything Goes hat. See it right there. He then gets into his car. And he goes where? To the Walmart. Curious thing, though, as Mr. Chen rounds the corner of Tremont Street onto Fraser Avenue in the North Shore of Chattanooga, he's by himself. There's no one in the front seat. So what? We can see the Anything Goes hat. We can see Mr. Chen. We can see his car. The so what is that at 10:42 a.m., both his phone and Jasmine Pace's phone arrive at the Red Bank Walmart just a mere minutes away. What does Mr. Chen do? He goes into the Walmart. We can see him wearing all black in Exhibit 18. Wearing, you guessed it, Anything Goes. Mr. Chen then selects various items while he's shopping in the Walmart, but not before he sends this. Good morning. Slept like baby? Made myself a matcha. In an attempt to create an alibi, he's not there. He's somewhere else. You must ask yourselves, is that a sick joke? Slept like baby? sent to the person that you just stabbed 60 times? Is that the conduct of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, they're just frantic? Or is it methodical? Does it show a desire in their mind to try to divert attention away from themselves? He uses a photograph to place him at Starbucks rather than Walmart, where he's buying cleaning supplies, towels, Band-Aids. He checks out at 11 o'clock a.m. and then immediately goes Sup Creek. The location that Miss Jasmine Pace was ultimately found inside this suitcase being indicated by the red pin with body location in the middle. You can see that he's going to the west and to the south of Sup Creek Road, looking for a good spot. He found it. He returns home at 12:38, carrying his Walmart bag, wearing his anything goes hat, where he stays for several hours and begins the laborious project that is cleaning up the copious amounts of blood that had been spilled in his apartment. And at 12:43, after he's been home for just a few minutes, some interesting activity starts on Miss Jasmine Pace's phone. At 12:23, on the 23rd of November at 12:43 p.m., he starts trying to get into Jasmine's iCloud. Why? Why? So he can have unfettered access to the digital files, so that he can start creating a further alibi, so that he can begin the process of impersonating his victim to make it appear as though she's still alive to buy time. That's not the conduct of somebody in a frantic panic, doesn't know what they're doing. That is the conduct of somebody who is cold and calculating. We then see Mr. Chen again later that afternoon at 1:36. This is when he takes the trip from his apartment at 110 Tremont Street and goes to Walgreens the first time. You'll note that his appearance has changed. See how he's wearing a light colored top and black pants? Different than what he was wearing at Walmart, but again, he's wearing his favorite anything goes hat. One of the jury questions was, what is the significance of item 153? Why was it so important to collect a quarter zip sweatshirt? Most importantly, why was it so important to collect this quarter zip sweatshirt? As you'll see here in a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, it's got a very distinct look. Mr. Chen will wear a black shirt under it. You'll see very clear that he continues to wear this, including when he eventually goes to dock the body. That's the reason. It's over here next to anything goes hat. Make a note of the V produced by the opening of the neck beneath the head. We can then see Mr. Chen drive off, again wearing his red hat and his gray hooded sweatshirt. You've seen the videos. Mr. Chen buys what at Walmart or Walgreens, more cleaning supplies, isopropyl alcohol. He returns home, but leaves again at 2:56 p.m. The purpose of this trip is it's an extended one. He's going to scout Sup Creek Road the second time that day. He's again wearing the gray hooded sweatshirt and the Anything Goes shirt or hat. But at 4:03 p.m., while he's still out looking for a place to dump Jasmine Pace's body, he sends this message. Hey, are we still good for dinner tonight? A message which shows is read by Jasmine Pace. I remind you where Mr. Chen is at this moment in time. Where the body is found. Again, slept like 80. I'm still good for tonight. Is that conduct of somebody who's frantic or someone who's depraved? Then we fast forward to 5:59. You've seen it. Mr. Chen emerges from his apartment with a suitcase. Watch as he tips it over. How heavy it is. Pulls him to the ground. Watch as he struggles. Here we go. Tipping it over. See it? Watch as he struggles to go around the corner towards the light post. Right there. Because it's not clothes. He's not going on some trip. It's a person. It's Jasmine Pace. 98 pounds, soaking wet. 5'2" tall. This rolling suitcase. He then drives past. Again, wearing his Anything Goes hat, his gray shirt. He heads to Sup Creek, disposes of Jasmine Pace, and goes to Walgreens again. Not before he makes a pit stop. He makes a pit stop at Walgreens. Remember Mark Hamilton, the cell phone forensics expert, when he testified? He said that Jason Chen's indicators were red, Jasmine Pace's were green. Miss Pace, despite actually being on Sup Creek Road in this suitcase in the cold November night, her cell phone in Mr. Chen's possession ends up at Walmart. Why? It reconnects to the network. Why would Mr. Chen do that? Remember that read receipt? He's now turning on strategically his phone and her phone to create instances where it appears as though she's online, but he's nowhere around. His phone goes dark, her phone turns on. Her phone goes dark, his phone turns on. It's manipulation of digital evidence to try to distance himself from the fact that he's disposing of the body. And we know this because at 6:49 p.m., Miss Jasmine Pace's cell phone with the IMEI number disappears. It's off the network. SIM card is out of the phone. The SIM card that's in evidence in 167-2. SIM card which was extracted and shown to belong to Miss Jasmine Pace. The defendant enters the Walgreens, again wearing this gray hoodie, completely zipped down, large V neck, with a black shirt under it, white shoes, and his ever-present Anything Goes hat. He heads home. But he's got a problem. He got rid of the body, but there's another big piece of evidence sitting in the parking lot of his apartment. It's Jasmine Pace's car. So at 8:26 p.m., he dons a disguise. Think about it. You've now seen his goings and comings at Walgreens, Walmart, the Arctic videos. Does he ever wear a face mask? No. He wears the face mask because he knows where Jasmine's car is located. It's right next to this room. But he knows that that room has a ring camera. He's got all the ring videos and evidence, which predate November the 23rd. You see him looking at it. He knows it's there. So he's got to hide his appearance. Again, to try to cover up his misdeeds. Ms. Pace's car then at 8:27, 1 minute after the ring video, car starts up, and we have hard acceleration. Twice during the trip from 110 Tremont Street to 900 Mountain Creek Road. How it drives, he doesn't know how the accelerator works. And we can see him in his disguise, hood up, blue surgical mask, driving Jasmine Pace's car. He does drop it off at 900 Mountain Creek Road. You've seen that happen. You've then also seen the ride share come and pick him up 9 minutes, 8 minutes after 8:41 p.m. And then you've also seen this. Oops. Jason Chen getting out of the car, wearing his plaid shirt over his white hoodie. The white hoodie and exhibit 1. Exhibit 143, this plaid shirt. And he goes into his apartment. Now, how might somebody who's upset about what they have done react? How? I can tell you what Mr. Chen did. Less than 1 day after stabbing a girl 60 times in his apartment, 6 hours after taking a body and on the side of the road, Mr. Chen says to his buddies, "I'm getting on in like 5 minutes." The entire conversation is there. They're talking about playing video games. Says COD, Call of Duty. After engaging in actual physical violence, he goes online to get some more.
Oh, come on.
Then we fast forward a couple of days, and Mr. Chen does something somewhat unexplainable. He takes Jasmine Pace's cell phone, takes his cell phone, removes the SIM card from his phone, and puts it into Jasmine's. Again, his cell phone data from T-Mobile, Exhibit 136, shows that where he had been using an iPhone XR, he now starts using Jasmine Pace's phone. Again, why? Because he now will have unfettered access to all of her social medias. He can start posing as her more effectively. communicating with the family, giving the impression that she's not dead so that they don't come looking for her to buy more time to clean up his apartment. So let's talk about the crimes themselves now that we have the timeline down. Abuse of a corpse, as the court has instructed you, is treatment of an ordinary person. Wrapping a person in 3 garbage bags, putting them in a suitcase, driving them out into the wilderness to unceremoniously plop them on the side of the road on an embankment down by a river is offensive. Plain and simple. No reasonable person thinks that's acceptable. Especially once you know that the family's looking for her. Sure, he dumps the body on the 23rd, but when the family's looking for him, mum's the word. In fact, even after the family breaks into the apartment looking for her, nothing. First-degree murder. In order to convict the defendant in this case, you have to find several things. First, the venue that this crime happened in Hamilton County. You heard the testimony of multiple witnesses. Mr. Chen's apartment, 110 Tremont Street, specifically apartment 210, is located on the North Shore community of the city of Chattanooga. Chattanooga is in Hamilton County. We have proven venue. Next, we have to show that Jason Chen is the person who committed the crime of murder. Next, we have 3 elements. That Jason Chen unlawfully killed Jasmine Pace, that he did it intentionally, he did it with premeditation. Again, going back over, if you've seen it, you have a map of it. North Chattanooga. We've kind of gone over this a little bit, but I do think it's important to point out because it goes directly to the heart of identity. You can see it in Exhibit 129, 21, 129, and when you watch Exhibit 129, the video, you'll see it yet again, especially the black, dark V-neck right there. That's Mr. Chen pulling that suitcase. The suitcase that contained Jasmine Pace's body. So we can point out all the similarities. It's like a fingerprint. He's got his anything goes hat, his black shirt under his zip top with black pants and shoes. Oh, which are in evidence as well. Exhibit 157. Anything goes hat with a black shirt and a quarter zip, because when he enters the Walgreens and buys some Bounty paper towels, he uses a credit card. That credit card has numbers on it. Those numbers match the wallet collected from his Nolensville residence, where he was staying with his parents. And you'll see that it's a match. Garbage bags that contained Jasmine Pace's body that were found inside this suitcase have not 1, but 2 different fingerprints belonging to Mr. Chen. We also heard from Detective Crawford during his direct examination about slippage injuries to Mr. Chen's hands. All of that circumstantially shows that Mr. Chen is the same person that we see on the videos is the same person in possession of the physical evidence in this case. So let's talk about intentional. 60 stab wounds. 60. Not 1, not 2, not 4, not 20, not 30, not 45, 60 individual stab and is-size wounds were on Jasmine Pace's body at the time she was examined by the medical examiner's office. That means stab, action 1. Removing, action 2. Each stab in and of itself consists of 2 distinct movements. The movement plunging the knife blade in and the movement removing the knife blade out, back in, out 120 times. He had to move his body to be able to inflict the number of injuries that we see on Jasmine Pace's body. Dr. Cogswell, our medical examiner for Hamilton County, opined that the cause of death was multiple stab and incise wounds. So let's talk more specifically about the premeditation in this case. Using the understanding that we had earlier regarding the example with the traffic light that it can be formed in an instant. There's evidence of preparation, the number of injuries inflicted upon Ms. Pace, as well as his conduct after the fact, all show that this was not some act of somebody who didn't know what they were doing, but somebody that had a plan, carried it out, and carried it well. You gotta ask yourself, if Ms. Jasmine Pace is in the fetal position, if she wasn't moving, like the medical examiner told you, if the incise wounds are on her left arm, right shoulder, no significant injuries further down, head and neck, but only on the right side, the chin and the eye, what does that tell us? What about the lack of stab and incise wounds to the left side of the body? What about the lack of stab and incise wounds to the front of her body? What does that tell us? It tells us several things. Excuse me.
I got on the.
Beg your pardon, Ron?
I got on those. Or my report of the not broadcast. Draft image.
What?
Ready?
I warned the audience, I warned the media. It's consistent with Jasmine Pace being found. She's being stabbed. If someone were stabbing a person 60 times, we would expect them to try to get away. But what if they can't? What if they can't because their right hand is chained to their right leg, their left leg chained to their right elbow? Makes it difficult to run. Makes it difficult to do anything. Dr. Cogswell told you that she was stabbed in the fetal position 60 times. We'd also expect that if she's being attacked on the right side of her body, that she might try to defend herself with both hands. There should be injuries on both hands. Instead, what we have are injuries to the left hand, no significant injuries to the right hand. That's consistent with her being in the fetal position with a hand unable to move on the ground. is consistent with exactly what we see on the screen right there for being handcuffed. We also see additional injuries on Miss Pace at the time of autopsy. We don't know what caused them. We can't tell you. But what they are consistent with, according to Dr. Coswell, is the application of pressure of some kind of throat, the application of a large amount of force to the rib cage, and some bruising to the nose right next to the right eye. We also have bruising to her right arm. Let's talk about the restraints for a minute. The handcuffs and the shackles. Primary interest are these shackles. The defense insinuates that the shackles were not placed on Miss Pace before the stabbing took place. Why? Because if you shackle somebody and then stab them, well, that's taking a step to accomplish what you do. You're confining somebody, you're making it easier to stab, but there's a problem with that. Dr. Cogswell told you that dead people don't move, right? Makes sense. Don't know that it would require a medical expert to say that, but it is the truth. These are shackles. Ankle, arm, connected at the elbow. Why would Jason Chen take the time to apply a set of broken shackles to somebody? He wouldn't. But dead bodies don't move. You know what do move? When they stab 60 times. They don't move much if they're shackled. They don't move much if their right hand is handcuffed to the inside of their right ankle. But ask yourselves, why did the handcuffs not break? Well, you get a whole lot of momentum. Leg and your hand are come together. Really, hand with your arm. But guess what you can do with these shackles? You've got more length to work with to build up momentum and snap the chain. Not enough for Miss Pace to get away. No. Not enough for her to get away. She had two sets of restraints keeping her right arm down there so she couldn't fight back with her right hand. Only with her left.
How did I miss that? I missed that they were broken.
You can see it right there. It's broken because Jasmine takes them off back. It's broken that because when Jason Chen put those cuffs on her, she tried to get away, but was only to break free with one set. Couldn't break from the second. That's all it took. That's all it took to keep her in one place so that you could inflict a total of 60 stab and incise wounds on her little body. That's all it took. Having her in the fetal position with one arm chained to her right leg on the inside. And let's think about it. Why on the inside? Not the outside. If it is, as the defense would have you believe, that Jasmine Pace was cuffed up while she was dead, right? Why on earth would they apply one shackled to the elbow and the other one to the left leg? She's not moving. She's not going anywhere. You'd make it so that it matches, right? You want her to be in as tight of a package as possible to fit into this teeny little suitcase that's not designed to hold a person. She's not moving. Cuff the hands together, shackle the two legs together, and pull them together. You wouldn't go haphazard, right hand to right leg, and then attach the cuff here, and attach the shackle to the left leg. Well, she doesn't want to be shackled. He's just slapping the shackles on whatever he can find, whatever he can get his hands on. It's been insinuated that this was a crime of passion. He blacked out, didn't know what he was doing. 60 stabs, wakes up, what have I done? I want you to remember something. Dr. Cogswell told you that the injuries inflicted on Miss Pace, Jasmine, were from two categories: antemortem, paramortem. He emphatically said, I found no evidence of postmortem injuries. Remember that testimony? You mean that a crazed individual who doesn't know what they're doing knows the precise moment to stop stabbing? Or would somebody who's acting under some kind of a passion that just keeps stabbing, he would keep going after they're dead? He used the precise amount of force necessary to accomplish his goal, and then he stopped. That's evidence of premeditation. It shows that he knows what he's doing. It shows that he's in control of his actions. And we can see it there in 204:11. That's a paramortem. I want you to think about it. If you're stabbing somebody and you've slit their throat, severed their jugular, the epiglottis, so that she's now inhaling and choking on her own blood, aspirating it into the lungs, creating that, I think it was leopard print pattern, cheetah print, I forget. But the pattern inside the lungs, that's not a quick death. It's not an instant kill. Remember the questions were asked of Dr. Cogswell? That would immediately incapacitate her, wouldn't it, doctor? Not necessarily. So then you move on to somewhere else, another vital organ. The lung. The head. But you want to know what happened with the lung? The knife blade broke off. It made his job much more difficult. We know that some of the wounds, like the through and through of her hand, the through and through of her neck, and the one that broke off in her back, all had to happen ante-mortem with the knife blade still intact. But what we do know is that not any of them came after she was dead. What are the odds? And during Dr. Cogswell's testimony, there was a question from the jury, and it was a good question, a very good question. How many of them, of the wounds that you saw, were downward? But remember, Dr. Cogswell always talks and describes in standard anatomical position. Up means towards the head. Down means towards the soles of the feet. Right means towards the victim's right hand. And left means towards the victim's left hand. Front, the front of her body. Back, the back of the body. But remember what Dr. Cogswell on her, the flat of her feet, like this, or on her side on the ground. And if we're talking about on her side on the ground, standard anatomical positioning gets tricky. You'll have the autopsy report back there. And a question was asked, were any of them upward? Any of the wounds indicating upward? And that doesn't necessarily mean up towards the sky. It just means, for instance, in this case, an oblique stab wound on the right web of the neck penetrating upward through muscle only is generally in that direction.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
So as you read the autopsy report, remember, upward doesn't necessarily mean that she was standing. What it could indicate is that she's on the ground. It's just a nice angle traveling from one direction to the other. Now, we've already talked about this, but after he stabs Miss Jasmine Pace, after he disposes of her body, he's disguising his appearance. That's a higher level function of Mr. Chen's brain. He is thinking about, I don't want to get caught, so what can I do to avoid detection? He's got to clean his apartment, which he's already started doing, but how can I not be recognized when I'm going out disposing of various pieces of evidence? So he disguises himself. And just laid out on the bed tabs. And this shirt. When you watch the video frame by frame, you can see the pattern. It's matched. And he left it in the crime scene. Another interesting thing that he does is start changing his habits. When you see him check out at Walgreens, when you see him check out at Walmart, when you see him running around, he's using his phone as his wallet. But inexplicably, when he gets to Nolensville, his phone, which he uses as his wallet, is now inside a red jewelry box in a bedroom. And he's transitioned to an actual physical wallet that heretofore on the videos you've not seen. Why? Because he's concerned he's now being tracked. He can't take his phone with him, or it might give away where he is. And he stages the scene. We know he stages the scene based upon the physical evidence. The giant saturation stain on the left side of the bed, on the north wall of the bedroom. The stains along the east wall. But when law enforcement arrive, his bed is moved. It's now up against the north wall, covering up the stain. Don't forget, Exhibit 72, crime scene photograph, shows indentations in the carpet consistent with an item having been recently moved. What item? Well, there's a nightstand that's the same general shape in the corner next to the bed. Also, in Exhibit 117, you can see Mr. Chen with his bed very clearly centered on the east wall. Why would he move his bed? To cover up the large blood stain on the carpet. Where Miss Jasmine Pace, to quote Dr. Coswell, leaked. This is circumstantial evidence personified. You see the black stain on the right side of the left shoe? It's right there. Go through the crime scene photos. Black stains, paired, got another white pair in boxes. The rest of the night. Never been found. We don't know where it is because Mr. Jason Chen, after stabbing Jasmine Pace, disposed of that too. And obviously, we've already talked about this a lot. Also talked about the manipulation of digital evidence. About that as well. Everything he does is calm, it's collected, and most importantly, it's rational. Everything he does is to a point, and that's to escape capture. Everything he does leading up to the attack by shackling and restraining Jasmine Pace is to make it easier to accomplish the act itself. That is premeditation. It doesn't matter that he didn't have it written down on some sheet of paper. Today will be the day that I kill Jasmine Pace. All that matters is he took steps to commit the murder. He committed the murder. And during the commission of the murder, you mean to tell me that during any one of those 60 stabs, he never once thought I should stop? No. Like the car approaching the yellow light, it was hammered down. Keep going. Don't stop. The defense's theory is that this all happened in the bedroom. This was been insinuated. They're expert. Something big happened in the bedroom. The defense postulates that the blood in the bathroom is because Mr. Chen crawled on the floor and took his shirt off. That's how the blood got there. Is that question being postulated, defense expert? It's possible. Is it reasonable? We'll talk about it. Their own expert described the collection of evidence he was testifying on direct examination yesterday. CPD, crime scene, did a good job collecting things with the knowledge that they had going on. Their own expert said that. I didn't ask that question. He just offered it to you. That was his opinion, unsolicited. He talks about crime scene contamination and how prints through blood can move blood from one part of the apartment to the other. But he then, on cross-examination, admits that in order for there to be blood soaked through the grout, it has to be a large volume, sitting there for a while, right? You mean to tell me that when the Pace family conducted their frantic searches of Mr. Chen's apartment, you mean to tell me that when the Chattanooga Police Patrol officers walked through, they trampled through enough blood to soak through grout and produce that pattern on the underside? That's unbelievable. It's incredible, and it's unreasonable. Now, he did tell you that what we have here in Exhibit 179-6 is an impact mark. Remember his testimony about that, that you can infer the direction based upon the angle of the tail of the blood drop, that as it impacts the surface, it creates kind of a teardrop shape with a little dot. See the little dot? And then from that, you can infer the direction from which the blood came. And in this case, he agreed. When shown this photograph, 179-1, that where the blood came from, that's over 6 feet off the ground, was lo and behold, the red area outlined here in the bathroom, not the bedroom. He also is of the opinion that despite the blue star lighting up like this, that's just transfer. Even though that's in the same room where we see the impact mark with direction indicated. His opinion is that the attack happened in the bedroom, and that this is the result of massive bleeding. He says that he could see in these photographs that there are scuffs on the wall, and that's indicative of something happening there. Remember that testimony? Stuff's on the wall. He tells you that he can't see drag marks, but he did recognize a blood trail going from the bathroom past number 6 under the bed to the large saturation stain that we saw in the preceding photograph. He also tells you that he could see in his photo what he believes to be 3 fingers. I don't know about your fingers, but when we put that picture up on the projector, I ask you to agree fingers aren't in a straight line. How perfectly straight were those lines of the fingers? I ask, isn't it possible that it was the folding of the sheet over on top of each other and a transfer in that manner, not a fingerprint? He couldn't say. In light of all of that, counsel asks, would that blood have been transferred by Jason? I don't see how it would have. Remember, he was asked about the attack and would that have created a large volume of blood, a large amount of blood? And he said, yes, it would have gotten everywhere. Jason's arms, his chest, his shirt, even the back of his head. Well, if that's the case, remember what Dr. Cogswell said when he was describing the position of Jasmine Pace's body on the large carpet. He said that her head, when we had it splayed out here on the floor, and remember the 2 straight corners, north wall, east wall, north wall, east wall, okay? Head was here, posterior, buttocks here, legs tucked up. Remember that explanation? If that's the case, well, that's not much room in which to stab someone 60 times, is it? It's also curious. How would you be positioned to be able to even inflict those wounds in that little area? Not reasonable. The explanation makes absolutely no sense. I mean, don't forget, it's an attack that literally broke the knife blade off. A violent attack, creating blood that would have covered both the victim and Jason Chen. But ask yourselves, if that headboard was called, meaning this is the side of the bed exposed to that violent exchange, where's all the blood? All we have are these little red spots. A couple small little transfers. Where is blood on the maroon sheet? It was pulled all the way down. Ask yourselves, if the attack severed the ulnar artery on the hand that's free, you mean to tell me that Dr. Cogswell, who described arterial bleeds as spurting, there's not blood everywhere, just in a little puddle? Where's the blood? It's on the floor, no doubt. We'll agree to that. Where's the impact stains? On the bed, the wall, door frame.
I'm waiting for him to stop so I can say something.
Dr. Cogswell told you in his testimony. It just doesn't follow. Here's the sheet. If Miss Jasmine Pace was stabbed 60 times within a foot or so of this bed and that sheet, in the manner described by Dr. Cogswell and their own crime scene expert, it would be soaked. But it's not. All we can see are some red stains in the carpet. Rather, ladies and gentlemen, the proof in this case, the scientific proof, even the testimony of the defense's own witness, Mr. Lawrence, establishes that the more violent, aggressive, physically impressive acts occurred in this room, the bathroom, in that area right there. I want you to think about this. In order to soak through the grout that we see in the preceding photographs, that would require a large puddle for an extended period of time. The blood stain at Exhibit 6 is consistent with blood running off the end of the tile and beginning to soak into the carpet. No doubt the defense expert is correct. Carpet is absorbent. And it started wicking the blood off of the tile floor before Mr. Chen had an opportunity to soak it up. Whose blood? TBI tested it. It's Jasmine Pace's blood. Jasmine Pace's blood found on the threshold in the transition from the bedroom to the bathroom. The impact marks lead back to the large puddle of blood, to the large puddle of Jasmine Pace's blood. And oh, by the way, 159.12 and 159.13. Remember, he said there's an impact mark on the threshold of the door in the bedroom, and it ran down and then puddled a little bit. The blood will do that. It'll impact. It'll drip, and then it will stop. It'll stop that on the bathroom.
Oh, Lord, fix your sound system.
Okay. It didn't happen there. They're expert things. Despite the fact that the bathroom lights up like this, he says it's all contamination. All of this is contamination. Contamination. Everybody's contaminating. I'm contaminating. Everyone's contaminating. You want to know where the Paces, the police, the crime scene units aren't walking with their feet? How about the doors? It's not contamination. That's Jasmine Pace's blood, because that's where Jasmine Pace was murdered. Further proof of the cleanup as if you need it. He's buying paper towels. He's buying cleaning supplies. And yet the only thing that we can find, despite Mr. Lawrence, a nice gentleman, okay, saying that Mr. Chen didn't do a thorough cleanup job, yes, he did. All we have are blood and grout and a discoloration stain from where she was brutally murdered by Mr. Jason Chen. Further proof of it. Further stains in the grout. Talk about voluntary manslaughter. Vince has said provocation. Provocation. Based on what evidence? Courtney Paglino Bruin said she heard argument. You see this trial. An argument is not an excuse to murder somebody. Just because you have a disagreement with somebody and they're yelling, that's not adequate provocation to lead an otherwise reasonable person to act in an irrational manner. Mr. Chen is always a rational person in everything he does, whether it's posing as the victim online, whether it's sending the family messages, whether it's turning her phone on and off, whether it's using her phone to try to hide his activities, everything's with a purpose, including chaining her up. There's been absolutely no evidence other than there's a disagreement. She sounded sad. The female voice sounded sad, but assertive. And she screamed. It's not provocation. It's nothing. She's not there. What would cause a reasonable person to act unreasonable? It was posited earlier that it was a wine glass. She didn't hear crashing. She didn't hear breaking. All she heard was running away from the back of the apartment towards the front. Is that consistent with the story that we were telling, with Miss Jasmine Pace trying to get away, being stopped, being restrained, and then being murdered in the room that, guess what, is in between the bedroom and the front door? Mr. Chen was able to stop her before she got out, and that's where he handcuffed her, and that's where he started stabbing her. Did she bleed a lot in the bedroom? Absolutely. Absolutely. But even when you were showing the carpet with the giant saturation stain, you can't say that's Jasmine Pace. You remember that question being asked over and over? Then whose is it? Every explanation that has been given for Mr. Chen's conduct up until this point has been disproven. Remember, don't forget, ding ding. Ding ding. Ding ding. That's what's setting off. But you've seen the tender records. And it's not there. What this shows is a person who may have had an aggressive emotion during the attack. Or is emotional. That doesn't mean that it was provoked. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chen unlawfully killed Miss Pace. He acted intentionally. The number of wounds, his restraining the victim before the attack, his conduct after all shows calm reflection on the task at hand. And that's why he's guilty of first-degree murder. You'll find him guilty for snuffing out Miss Jasmine Pace's life on the 23rd of November, 2022, at 2 o'clock in the morning. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know what this means. I'm not on the jury, thank God. If she had been shackled before she was killed, and if she fought enough to break it, she would have busted some capillaries around her ankles, and she would have bled into the tissues, and she would have still had some blood in the surrounding tissues of her ankles that would not have bled out of her body. So even if he exsanguinated her by stabbing her 60 times, she should have still had some type of restraint marks around her ankles, especially if she kicked and fought hard enough to break that chain. So she should have had some sort of marks, ligature marks, restraint marks. So I'm a little confused. So if she was alive, if she wasn't alive when he restrained her, why are all of her injuries only on one side of the body? Yeah, but he just said that she fought so hard that she broke the shackles. If you're going to put that much force on metal shackles, you're going to have some marks. If he gave her something to knock her out, yeah, that would have showed up in a talk screen. But if he hit her and knocked her out, it wouldn't show up in a talk screen. Because, see, I missed somehow. I don't know how I missed it. I missed that she broke that chain. If she kicked hard enough to break that chain, then she put enough pressure against that shackle to bust the capillaries in her ankles. I would think. Now, I could be wrong, but if you break a capillary and that blood seeps into the skin and then you get stabbed and you exsanguinate, you're still going to have blood from those little bitty capillaries still in the surrounding tissues. That's not going to exsanguinate because it has no place to go. It's already left your vessels and gone into the tissues of your skin. It's not going to leave your body. It's still going to stay there. So maybe he did do it afterwards to get her to fit in the suitcase. But I don't think that he knew he was going to kill her that night. But I still say that the 60 stab wounds, unless he was in a fugue state and just couldn't stop, I don't know. I'm baffled now. I don't know. Oh, she's gonna do closing? Surprised.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, on behalf of Jason Chen and his defense team, we appreciate your attentiveness during the course of this trial. This has been a difficult trial. Jasmine Pace's life was taken on November 23rd, 2022. Jason Chen did that. Jason Chen and Jasmine Pace have been in a relationship on and off, as you heard testimony, for about a year. On November 22nd, just before midnight, Jasmine Pace came to Jason Chen's home at 110 Tremont Street, apartment 210. It's undisputed. What happens between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock? There's no proof of it. We do know just after 2 o'clock in the morning, Courtney Brewer was awakened. She was awakened by what she described as a female scream. What we know is that Courtney couldn't describe what was being said. She couldn't say to you, she couldn't answer any questions about what the argument was over. She described it as something that you couldn't decipher. Emotions are up, pulses are up, everyone's aggravated. Jason Chen's scared. Jasmine's upset. Jason's upset. And Jason killed Jasmine. He got a knife, and 60 times Jasmine was stabbed. That hasn't been disputed by the defense since the first day of this trial. What's been disputed is the state's allegation that this is premeditated. You as a jury
Yeah, he could
have
just
the most important job. You're going to retire to a jury room, and you're going to be looking at all of this evidence. You're going to be looking at all of the testimony, recalling the testimony that you've heard from all of the witnesses. Investigator Crawford, Dr. Cogswell, Courtney Brewer, CSU investigators. You're going to be going through mounds of evidence, days of testimony. And like the general asked you during jury selection, you get to use your common sense. You get to apply what you know to the facts and the evidence that's been given to you. What we know is that from just after 2 o'clock in the morning, everything that Jason did showed that there was no plan. It showed that he wasn't acting rational. Rational people don't shackle individuals and put them in garbage bags. They don't shackle the individual, put them in the garbage bag, and put them in a suitcase. They don't go the next day to Walgreens and Walmart to get cleaning supplies. They call the police. Everything that Jason Chen did was disgusting. It's unacceptable. That's not refuted by the defense. The state would like for you to believe that everything that Jason did from just after 2:18 in the morning until he was in Nolensville was part of a plan. He left breadcrumbs everywhere he went. He got Jasmine's phone. He used her phone. The state has asked you to believe that Jason had full control of her phone from 2 o'clock on, but they don't want you to think for a moment that he yet again made a mistake. Tries to not share a location, stop sharing a location, and drops a pin. They want you to believe that Jasmine was shackled when she was being stabbed. Dr. Cogswell was asked very specific questions, questions that you can remember. You can look back through your notes and recall his testimony and discuss this among yourselves. There were no ligature marks on Jasmine's wrist. There were no ligature marks on Jasmine's ankles. There were no cuts. There were no bruising. The state would like for you to believe that's because she couldn't move. She couldn't break the shackles. She couldn't break the handcuffs. The reason they aren't there is because they were not applied so that Jason could stab her. They were applied so that he could fit her into garbage bags before putting her into a suitcase. If the state was able to establish that she was cuffed and shackled, there's your premeditation. They don't have that. You don't have that for the proof either. What you have is the state's argument to you today. That's the theory you should believe. And their own expert refutes that. No defensive wounds, no ligature marks, no bruising, no cuts. An individual that's fighting and tied would surely have that. Jason is charged with 2 counts. Abuse of the corpse, first degree murder. When you're in this jury room, you're going to be tasked with finding him guilty of an offense beyond a reasonable doubt. What is that? Reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, is going to be the elimination of any doubt that Jason Chen committed these offenses. Let's put them side by side. The abuse of the corpse charge. A reasonable person would not believe that it's acceptable for Jason to put Jasmine into trash bags after she's been shackled, put her into the suitcase, drive her to Sub Creek, and discard her. No reasonable doubt would a reasonable person have. That's not acceptable. That's unlawful, and that he's committed that offense. When you're in the jury room, though, you have that same confidence related to freedom. You have the same conviction that Jason knew what he was doing, that he intended to do this, and that he had the plan to do it. The law is clear. We're not asking you to believe that Jason had hours, days, months that he's playing this out. But you have to know with moral certainty that he had a moment to reflect and that he didn't. It's the state's burden to show you that he had that moment of reflection and that he chose to disregard and to continue to engage in acts that killed Jasmine Pace. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not here. You've heard from Courtney Brewer about the yelling, something that she can't even describe to you what was being said. Movement throughout the apartment. Jason's actions from that point forward, well, are not acceptable or adequate. If you believe that Jason was provoked to a point of being fear or terror, then you're going to be looking at the jury instructions specific to voluntary manslaughter. I'm going to pull up on the screen here what specifically you need to look at in the jury instructions regarding premeditation. When you're dealing with premeditation, and I'm going to read this to you, but you have the ability to read it yourself, it's a premeditated act that is done after the exercise of reflection and judgment. Not one, but both. An exercise of reflection and judgment. Premeditation means that the intent to kill must have been formed prior to the act. What we've heard for days is everything Jason has done after. This is not you going to the jury room and determining that there's post-meditation. It's premeditation. Everything that Jason did before Jasmine's death. It's not necessary that the purpose of guilt pre-exists in the mind of the accused for any definite period of time. The state says each of those actions, 120 movements that Jason should have had the ability to reflect. They haven't shown that he did. What you need to look at also is in Dr. Coxwell's testimony. He talked about the injuries that Jasmine sustained. He talked about how they were centralized, how there wasn't a pattern, that it seemed erratic. It seemed as if someone was in a state of excitement, a state of passion. When you're looking at the lessons that the judge has already instructed you about, when you go into second degree or voluntary manslaughter, when you find that the state has not met their burden to prove premeditation, you're going to be looking specifically at the distinction between what is second degree murder and what is voluntary manslaughter. Specifically, voluntary manslaughter requires that the killing result from a state of passion state's witness talked about this. They talked about the individual that inflicted these wounds being in a state of excitement or a state of passion. Right here, your jury instructions. That is something for you to consider. It does require that there has to be a state of passion that's produced by adequate provocation. You heard yelling from the floor below. That was enough to wake an individual up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So loud that she couldn't even make out what was being said. There's an argument. Provocation. When you're looking at the next step, it would lead a reasonable person to act in an irrational manner. The state would like me to believe that he was cool, calm, and rational. Irrational people do the things that Mr. Chen did. On the next slide, when you're trying to determine what the state of passion is, passion means human emotions such as anger, rage, resentment, terror, similar emotions which render a mind incapable of cool reflection. If you find that there was provocation, that you believe Ms. Gruber, that she heard a female screaming, so loudly yelling that nothing could be made out of what she's saying. Anger. Jasmine is angry. Jason. We don't hear that Jason's yelling back or that Jason's screaming at her. We hear that the female is yelling. If you find that there was a specific issue of whether or not Jason could have been in a state of passion, you can't form premeditation because he can't reflect. There's no moment that he could have for full reflection. During the course of this trial, there were a lot of questions that were raised about the investigation of the Chattanooga Police Department, about the collection of evidence, about the time that it took for law enforcement to get involved. This wasn't to distract you or to try to make it look like Jason didn't commit any offense. It was to make you aware that the state's going to ask you to rely on this evidence of this scene. That one, Jason contaminated, but so did every other individual that went in afterwards. They want you to believe that this scene is pristine enough that it sets a story up that Jason acted with premeditation. Cleaning a scene after the fact does not give you premeditation. Removing Jasmine's body, shackling her, putting her in garbage bags, and putting her in the suitcase and discarding her on the riverbanks doesn't give you premeditation. It gives you the use of force. How Jasmine was discarded is not acceptable. Jason should be held accountable for that. Jasmine's death is not acceptable. Jason should be held responsible for that. When you're in the jury room, when you are looking through these instructions, it'll be important for you to remember it is the state's burden to prove each of those elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First-degree murder requires premeditation, as you saw in that first slide. The state has to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, and it has not been proven. You will not find first-degree murder. But when you're evaluating the jury instructions and the other charges available, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will find that Jason Chen did unlawfully kill Jasmine, that he acted in a state of passion, and that he committed the offense of voluntary manslaughter. One of the things that the state did talk about, and I'm going to touch briefly on that, is what's been shown as 226. You guys can recall this red sheet. The state would like to talk about traces in the sheet, possibly not being blood. You have the ability to look at this. We don't know what this is. You won't be able to see anything but this picture in the back, because the state doesn't do anything with the sheet other than collect it. It's not tested. It's not brought here for the trial. So you have a picture. Why we don't have it here, I'm not sure. But it does raise questions as to what this could be. Why is it not preserved? Why is it not entered here? Why is it not tested? This is among many things we don't have answers to. The state also mentioned a few months ago ante-mortem, perimortem, and postmortem. Put a slide up on the screen that showed none detected for postmortem. Dr. Cogswell, in his testimony, said that the time that it takes to inflict those injuries, the 65 wounds to Jasmine, is not the same amount of time it would take for her to die. You can remember that. He said that more than once. The fact that an individual is stabbed 60 times does not mean that she died instantly. You heard about her continuing possibly to bleed out. Jason Chen did not stop stabbing because he thought she was dead and that was good enough. There's no evidence that supports what the state just said to you. Dr. Cogswell's own testimony refutes what the state just stood here and told you. Dr. Cogswell said that the amount of injuries that were placed on Jasmine, she would have died after the infection stopped because of the amount of bleeding that she was doing. I know that I've just said this to you, but I'm going to say it once again. This has been a hard case. Jasmine deserves justice. You have given Mr. Chen the benefit of a fair trial. Your attentiveness has been very clear throughout this, and it's much appreciated. In reviewing this evidence, we ask you to return a verdict of voluntary manslaughter. Thank you.
Well, that was short and sweet. Now we got butter.
Let's stay.
Wow. In opening statement, I told you that we would give you the dots and we would help you connect them. Every single fact we mentioned in opening statement, we proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Every single fact we committed to, we proved to you beyond a reasonable doubt, because that's what opening statements are for. To give you the evidence you're about to see. And then you heard
I think you
from Mr.
toned
Chen's
it
attorney,
dark
who
down a little
committed to a very specific story. Remember, we didn't just talk about that story, right? We've backed off that story because, that story doesn't work anymore. And we're going to talk about that story. This entire trial has been muddy the waters. It has been muddy the waters to confuse the jury. The opening statement from the defense was meant to confuse you. It was meant to have you thinking about other things, possible defenses that the state disproved. Not only did you not hear evidence of what they said in their opening statement, the state outright disproved it. That's why you don't hear it today. That's why we're not going to go back over the defendant's story. And you had asked about transcripts of opening statements. Let's talk about what we committed to in opening statement as Jason Chen's attorneys. They met on Tinder, wrong. You have text messages. They met on Bumble. Simple thing, but we're just starting with the untruths that the state disproved. They traveled to Chicago together that summer, wrong, end of October. You have text messages that show that he asked her to go to Chicago. You heard that you will see messages where you will see that one of them likes one of them more than the other. Oh, that Jasmine liked him more than he liked her. Wrong. You never saw proof of it. In fact, you have all the messages that they didn't want to show you. They wanted to put them in evidence and then just hope that maybe you'll waste your time reading them. So what did I do? I put them on the screen for you. That weekend before he killed her, he asked her to come over. Oh, she likes him more? No. If you want to waste your time reading the messages, read them. You'll find out that that was not true. What they committed to an opening statement was not true. They drank wine, smoked pot, smoked wax. We didn't hear that just now, did we? Why? Because it's not true. They committed to a story to throw mud at the wall, and it was never true. It was meant to confuse you. And then also, how offensive. The victim drank wine, so he murdered her. The defendant was smoking wax. No proof of it. Zero proof of it. Didn't happen. But let's say that it did. The defendant smoked wax, marijuana, so he murdered her. That is no defense. But it's certainly not a defense when you say it and you never prove it. You committed to this in your opening statement. And by the end of trial, when the jury's no longer confused, you don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, I don't like your...
In order to open one of the bottles of wine in the bedroom, Jason had to go to the kitchen and get a kitchen knife to take off that plastic wrapper that goes around the top of the wine bottles. We've seen that knife. Well, we've seen part of it. We'll never know where the other part of it is. We've seen part of it, right? So he was able to get it off the top of the wine bottle. They finish off the bottle. She goes into the kitchen to get another one, and she sees those Tinder messages. The Tinder messages are significant, mostly because that was their adequate provocation. The only adequate provocation you ever heard in this trial was an opening statement, which is not evidence. And then what was the state able to do? Through an expert, who nobody can deny that Mark Hamilton is an expert. He put those Tinder records on the screen and he explained them to you. They are records that cannot be toyed with. They are records that T-Mobile holds regardless of whether you delete things. Those are his Tinder records. And not only did he not have Tinder notifications from that morning, he didn't even have Tinder notifications from November 22nd. That was their adequate provocation. It didn't happen. We know for a fact it didn't happen. So now they stand up here and they say adequate provocation. He was provoked with zero evidence. What the evidence was is that he chased her to the door of that apartment. Ms. Paglino Brewer was the state's best witness, and I didn't even call her. I wish I would have. She nailed down our timeline. If you didn't already believe the timeline because she sent her mother her location at 2:18, Courtney knows it. Courtney looked at her phone at 2:11 in the morning after she heard a scream of a woman in, quote, distress. And here's the kicker. They want you to believe this fabricated story that there's no proof of. But how does Courtney help us? Because she attacked Jason. Again, we're uncommitted to this story now, but let's just go back to their opening statement. She attacked him with a wine bottle, and then subsequently, after he kicked her 98-pound body, according to opening statement, he kicked her 98-pound body to the floor where she fell on wine glasses. She then subsequently came at him with a wine glass and he stabbed her irrationally and very fast 60 times. Not true. Why? Because of Courtney and because of that phone location. Courtney was 2:11 a.m. The phone location to her mom was 2:18, 7 minutes. She screamed. Things happened. She was able to know she was in enough danger that she needed to send her mother her location. It wasn't fast. It wasn't fast at all, and we know that. 2:11 is 7 minutes from 2:18. It wasn't fast. She knew she was in danger. She tried to get out of the door, and Courtney told you that she heard a door slam. Jasmine knew she was in trouble. She had time to use her phone before he started killing her. Made up story. He kicked her. But he couldn't get the bathroom door closed because of a bath mat. Couldn't close the door on 98-pound Jasmine Pace. So he had to run in his bathroom. He had to run to his bedroom. Jasmine's right there coming at him with this broken glass. In closing, they don't want to talk about the story that they committed to, because the story they committed to was that he killed her in the bedroom. And he gets, quote, and he gets back into his bedroom and Jasmine's right there coming at him with this broken glass. Jason sees the knife and he reacts and he stabs. Okay, we got two problems there. First of all, his own expert, who I wish I would have called, good expert, says that there's something that happened in the bathroom. There is blood spatter on the wall in the bathroom. Like General Moyle showed you, there is blood in the grout in the bathroom. We know she was moved. Why do we know she was moved? Because Dr. Cogswell testified that on the ground in the bedroom where you see all of the blood, which was almost all of the blood that was in her body, because he was only able to get a small vial of blood because it had all leaked out on the carpet, that for that blood to be on the carpet, she had to be laying on her wound side. That's what he said. Because if she was not on her wound side, the blood would have soaked down to the other side of her body, and the medical examiner would have been able to see that. He said she was wound side down. We know she was moved. We know she was moved, and we know there wasn't enough room right there to just simply flip her over. She was killed. The stabbing began in the bathroom, and then he drug her into the bedroom where he put her on her side with the wound so she could bleed out. We know that. What else is the problem with this? Jason sees the knife and he reacts and he stabs. She's coming after him. He sees the knife and he stabs. The problem is, without question, over and over again, including in writing, our medical examiner says her wounds match her fetal position. It is not true. Trying to confuse you. Trying to throw everything at the wall and hope that it sticks. Really, the worst part of the opening statement is he's scared for what his future entails. But more importantly, the shame that he's going to bring on his family, the shame that comes with everything that he's being accused of today. Manipulative. Selfish. He's scared for what his future entails. He's so scared that he texts on Tinder Victoria at 9:52 with some corny pickup line. He's so scared for his future that he's playing video games with his friends later that day. Don't worry about Jasmine Pace, who's dead in your apartment the entire day until 6 p.m. when you take her to Suck Creek Road. Keep in mind, when he Tinder messages Victoria, Jasmine is dead in his apartment. Uncontested facts. Is this the mindset of someone that just irrationally stabbed a girl 60 times? No. And then he lies over and over and over again. And this is something that General Moyle didn't mention. He lies to Katrina Pace on the phone. He says he hadn't seen her since Saturday. A lie. Then he gets to his parents' house in Nolensville, and he's trying to come up with a story. Not the story you heard Monday, but he's trying to come up with a story. It says, the last time I saw her was the 18th of November. The other note, the other sticky note on the desk, says the last time I saw her was the 19th. Trying to get his facts right. He knows he's being looked for. He knows law enforcement's trying to contact him. Why? Because he's got Zach Crawford's number written on a Post-it note. Does he ever say, hey, I killed her because she came at me with a wine bottle? No. He's got Zach Crawford's number written on the Post-it note. He's scared for what his future entails. I'm going to ask y'all to do something for me. It's been a long week. I'm only going to have a couple more requests. When you think about this trial in 10 or 15 years, you tell somebody about the jury that you had to serve on in Hamilton County, you tell them about the case. I don't want you to remember this case as the case of State of Tennessee versus Jason Chen. The trial of Jason Chen. I don't want you to remember it with the suitcase that the girl left on the side of the road. I want you to remember this trial as the trial for Jasmine Pace. Because we talk a whole lot about criminal defendants. You've heard the name Jason Chen a whole lot since we started jury selection last week. Victims matter. Jasmine Pace is not just some girl listed in an autopsy report. She is not the photos that you have seen. Don't minimize her to a name on an indictment. She is a person. She had family that loved her, that you've heard from this week. She was a friend. She was a granddaughter. Please don't minimize this trial to the trial for him. I'm going to ask that you take all this information, all the notes you've made this week, all of the closing argument information. You're instructed to go back there and begin with first-degree premeditated murder. Go back there together and find him guilty. Please. Thank you, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, come to the part of the trial where we'll select our four alternates at this point. You may be disappointed, you may be relieved, but you are an alternate, you're not off the hook yet. You'll be kept separate from the other jurors in case something happens to the 12 that go back. We're not sure how long deliberations will take, but you will still remain part of an essential part of making sure
They're not allowed to do
the
that.
trial continues until the final verdicts are in.
They're not allowed to play on sympathy. Yep. What is he doing now? Or they picking alternates and four-person or something.
Our first alternate would be Otis Anderson, juror number 2.
Oh, they shut the sound off because he's saying their names.
You can't talk about the case among yourselves. You'll be kept in a separate room for now. We'll let you know if you're needed. At this point, you need to go to excuse you. Get your belongings from the jury room. The deputies will take you to another room where you can. Yeah, whenever they're out of jury. So, yeah. Let me know when they're all waiting, all jurors, you are the final 12 that will be deciding this case at this point. 4 things I'll tell you. If you have any questions when you get back there about the facts, you are the judges of the facts. If you have any questions about the law, they're probably in the jury instructions. So when you read the jury instructions, you can't find an answer. If you still have a question, just write it down, knock on the door, and get it, talk about it, and try to see if we can get an answer for you. And the final thing is that the deputies will show you where the light switch is, turn the light on, if and when you reach a verdict. Members of the jury, you should enter upon the consideration of this case with due regard to the seriousness of the questions submitted to you for your determination, and you should strive to free your mind of all bias one way or the other. You can have no prejudice or sympathy or allow anything but the law and the evidence to have any influence upon your verdict. You must render your verdict with absolute fairness and impartiality. Look to all the facts and circumstances and the proof before you. Make and report to the court such verdict as you think truth and justice require. You may now retire to the jury room for your deliberation. stand in recess till the jury has a question or verdict.
His name is Paul Moyle, Moyle. Paul Moyle named Chief Homicide Prosecutor by DA Cody Wamp. This is from Chattanoogan.com on Friday, June 2nd, 2023. Paul Moyle has joined the District Attorney's Office as Chief Homicide Prosecutor, District Attorney Commission Prosecutor. His father served as Chief Homicide Prosecutor for Palm Beach County, Florida, before being appointed to the county court bench. Notably, Paul is a former military police officer with the Alabama Army National Guard who deployed to Mosul, Iraq in 2010. His military decorations include the Bronze Star Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, Army Commendation Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, National Defense Service Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, Humanitarian Service Medal, and the Alabama Commendation Medal. I see why they call him the General. DA Wamp said, Paul joining our office is a major win for Hamilton County. He is one of the most knowledgeable and talented prosecutors I have had the privilege of serving with and is a relentless advocate for victims. I wondered why they kept calling him General Moyle. I'm like, why is a general prosecuting this case? I was confused. I don't think I would want, I don't know. That seems kind of pretentious. Like, I don't know if I want to still be called General. That's kind of weird. Is that weird? That seems weird to me. That seems like kind of pretentious. You're gonna still call me General after I get out of the Army? Like, that's weird. I don't know. So how long do you think they're gonna be out, guys? You think this is gonna be a quick one? I like the judge, but we didn't really get to see him in action because every time something happened, they went up to the bench. 1 to 4 hours. Yeah, I think it's going to be today because I don't think they want to stay any longer. I did not like her rebuttal. It wasn't really a rebuttal. She's just stood up and said they lied to you. That's not really a good rebuttal. That was they told you all this in closing and they didn't tell you any of that they told you all this in opening and they didn't tell you any of that in closing. So basically, they lied to you. And when it wasn't proven during the trial, they just decided not to tell you about it in closing because they told you about it in opening and it didn't happen. It not that was like just because said that was a low blow. That was I liked her until rebuttal. She gets heated. She gets a little too heated. That's not the time to be heated. Heated and confident and not forceful. What's the word I want? Heated and confident are two different things. Confident and I don't know what other word to use. It's not heated though. Yeah, that rebuttal was really bad. It was bad. I think that's probably the worst rebuttal I've ever seen. And she did so good up until then. And the ending of the rebuttal, that was a fine line. I mean, at first I agreed with her, but then I realized where she was saying it. That's not the time to say it. The time to say it is at the press conference when you win. That's the time to say this wasn't about Jason Chen. This was about Jasmine Pace. That's the time you say that. You don't say that to the jury because that's you're crossing the line. There is a movie that I love. It's a time to kill. And it's based on a John Grisham book and it's the movie stars Matthew McConaughey and Samuel L. Jackson. And it's about a man that a black man, obviously played by Samuel L. Jackson. His daughter is, I think she is SA'd. I can't remember. It's been so long since I watched it. I read the book too, and I don't remember if they SA'd her or just beat her up and hung her. But she didn't die, but she almost did. So when they went to the parents, Samuel L. Jackson's character hid inside a closet or someplace inside a door at the courthouse and jumped out and killed the guys that were on trial for hurting his daughter. And Matthew McConaughey defends him. Sandra Bullock's in it too. It's a very, very good movie. And he wins. It's basically jury nullification. He does this closing argument where he says, imagine, and he says everything that they did to that little girl in explicit detail. Imagine this, imagine this, imagine this, everything they did to her. And then he pauses. He makes a jury close their eyes and imagine all this. And then he pauses. And then he says, now imagine that she's white. It still gives me chills. And I thought that was the most amazing closing statement I'd ever heard in my life. And then when I started learning about law, I realized, oh crap, you can't do that. And John Grisham knows that because he was a lawyer. When I found out you couldn't really do that, I was like, oh man. But it makes sense that, because then you get jury nullification, which is what happens in that book, in that movie. You can't play on emotions because the law doesn't take emotion into consideration. Whatever is illegal, even if you did it for a good reason. You have to let the law handle it. And I don't know. I was thinking about it though. The shackles were broken. Who's to say that she broke them? Maybe he broke them. So he could have put them on her afterwards to make her fit in the bags in the suitcase, and then maybe he was using them kind of as a handle to drag her, and they could have, if it was like they keep saying it's not a good pair, it's like a novelty pair, so maybe he was using the chain as like a handle and he broke them. Maybe that's why they're broken, but there's no ligature marks. That could make sense why there's no ligature marks and it's broken. I just don't buy the fugue state. 60 stab wounds. 60. I don't know enough about fugue states to know if that's even possible. They needed to they needed to touch on the fugue state a little bit more, I think. Because if they really wanted to prove there was a fugue state, they didn't touch on it. They didn't have an expert that could talk about it. Right, that's what I mean. Yeah. She would have been dead before he put them on her. Because I can't think of why there would be no marks from the shackles if she was alive when he put them on her. Because even if she'd lost all her blood volume, there should be some, it's like petechiae. When someone's strangled and they have petechiae in their eyeballs, it doesn't matter if you exsanguinate them, they're still going to have the petechiae in their eyeballs. If you've strangled them first before you exsanguinate them, they're still going to have petechiae in their eyes. I don't know. See, that's what I mean. Like, that doesn't make sense, but everything he did afterwards, made sense. Or maybe because they didn't take that much force to break them, maybe they didn't leave marks for that reason. I'm so glad I'm never stuff that drives me crazy. Oh, come on, StreamYard, don't crash on me. I'm having a good discussion right now. I mean, I guess I can stop sharing and keep it on in the background if I hear anything. So, if they weren't hard to break, maybe they could have broken without any marks. But I don't know. But yeah, why not? If he started in the bathroom, why not stay in the bathroom? But that was just Detective Crawford thought it was in the bathroom. But that is a point that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter where in the apartment he killed her. I think a lot of times that attorneys bring too much into the case. Like, why does it matter where in the apartment she was killed? Unless you guys think that's an important part, tell me I'm wrong. I don't understand why it matters what room she was killed in. I mean, it does make sense if he knew it was going to happen that he would do it in the bathroom. But if it's like, she's coming at him like, you're still on Tinder, girls are hitting you up, what's going on? And then it was spur of the moment, crime of passion thing or whatever, and he did it in the bedroom. Because you're only going to do it in the bathroom if you're like planning it. So I guess it would matter where it was done. I don't know. I just know that I don't have to serve on juries, so because of my chronic illnesses, I am not able to, because I'm unreliable, like we were talking about before about me not being able to work even the simplest things. Same reason I can't sit on a jury. Because I would need to take more breaks and stuff, and yeah. So, well, I guess I gotta get up from here and make dinner tonight. He's getting tired of me feeding him frozen pizzas and text him and saying, bring food home. He's gonna be glad that the trial's over. I guess this is a part I hate. I hate verdict watch because I don't know what to do. Because I just don't know. I don't know if I should keep watch, if I should just shut everything down and just like keep that in the background and then go live when I get something. Because like I don't know how long they're gonna take. Well, we know we did it. That's pretty much the only thing that's we absolutely know. And we know consciousness of guilt because of all the cover up stuff he did. That wasn't part of the fugue state. I think they should have had some kind of an expert talk about the fugue state. If they really wanted, like the dude that was the crime scene reconstruction expert, he didn't impress me at all. They should have got a fugue state expert, someone that knows about people that commit crimes when they're in a fugue state. I know they've got some out there. There has to be. Because this is not the first time that someone has said they've committed, they like that other chick that I was telling you about. I got to figure out her name, and I need to do a video on that case. The chick that took the synthetic THC, the concentrated one, and she killed her dog and her boyfriend, and I think I don't remember if she killed his dog too. Yeah, and then she goes, the best witness for the state was a defense witness, and I didn't even call her. I wished I'd called her. I was like, oh my God, no, she didn't. Like, yeah, I was not crazy about the rebuttal at all. Not at all. Oh, that's right. Judy has to go. Bye. Is it a grandkids game? Okay. Well, I have to go cook dinner, and I will keep everything open in the background, and I will go live if we get a verdict today. So, alrighty. Thanks for hanging with me, guys. Judy, enjoy your game, and I will see you guys when we have a verdict. Bye.